Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear and On Point Pest Control. Check out ssbperformance.com for links to both. Both can ship all supplies all over the country. This week, we're talking about Christmas confessions and how to manage doubt. Christmas was great. In our house, Santa came, brought some unexpected and exciting gifts, and it was tons of fun. And later in the day, we had our family over, and that's always an exciting time. My mom's sisters and their kids and their kids' kids, and now their kids' kids' kids are all here to enjoy great food, great fun, games, lots of laughter. And at one point, I'm standing in the kitchen with a few of my cousins, and my cousin Mark, who's the pastor at Discover Church in Wadsworth, Ohio, I've mentioned him before and used some of his ideas in my tips actually, was talking about how his church has grown by 20% over the past year. That's so exciting. A lot of that's due to his leadership and the good messages that he gives and the fact that he's really just a normal guy, relatable. And he asked me, he said, how have my sermons changed? Because someone told him really it was the messages that was making the difference. So I gave him a few suggestions, and then my cousin Bob chimed in and said, hey, Mark, do you get nervous before you get up and preach? And Mark said, every single time. Every single time. In fact, he said that while he's standing and waiting for the hymns to be sung, usually at Protestant churches, there are about 4 songs that are played and people sing prior to the pastor giving the message. And he says he just wishes that those songs would go so fast so he could just get up there and get started, because during that time, thoughts come in like, are you really qualified to do this? Which of course he is. Can you do this? Who are you to give this message to these people? All of these things that you and I deal with in the doubt, those come in while he's standing there and waiting and listening to these worship songs. I would have never guessed. He is so comfortable in front of a group. He did my mom's funeral. He did my cousin's funeral. He is grace under pressure, and he's good. And I thought, wow, it's that imposter syndrome that every single one of us deals with, but we don't think the people who look like they've got it all together ever go down that road. And what he said after that was, I deal with it. I just deal with it. And later, I thought, man, this is something I need to hit on again. So I had a bunch of questions, and without boring my entire family, I thought, you know what, I'll get to the questions later. So I called him this morning, and we talked. I said, Mark, you said you deal with it. What do you do to deal with it? And he gave me 4 things. And that's what this tip is all about, these 4 things. Number 1. The number 1 thing that he talked about in dealing with this angst, he said, first of all, it never gets to a level of fear anymore. He said it's right there all the time, but it's not fear, it's angst. It's a little bit of doubt on whether or not he can hit the mark and whether he can get the message, these life-changing messages, across to the people that are in front of him, either in person or now, of course, online, which they live stream everything. But his first thing that he said was this. He said, I remind myself that I've been called to do this. And as people in ministry know, it's a calling. They feel like they're being called by their higher power, whoever that is. In this case, he thinks that God has put him in this position to do this. Like, okay. He says, because that keeps it in perspective. It's not about him. It's about a bigger picture. It's about what he's been called to do. And I thought, well, man, that relates to all of us. If you're a leader, someone put you there. If you're in a starting lineup, someone put you in that position. If you're in the pinch hitting position, someone put you in that position. You didn't put yourself there on your own. You never write yourself into a lineup. Someone believed that you had something that was worthy of the time. And Mark believes that God thinks that he is in the right place at the right time with the right skills and the right tools and the right knowledge. And that helps him keep things in perspective. And I thought, man, that really relates to all of us. If we've been called upon, called in, called up, called out of whatever we were in into something new, somebody thinks that we have the knowledge and the skill to get the job done. And in those times when we are doubting, we need to think about who put us there and why do they believe that we can get this done, or why should we be there? Mark said it's these what's he call it? ICNU. It's an acronym, ICNU, moments. The I see in you. I see in you. Somebody sees something in you that puts you in that position. So these are the I see in you moments. We need to think about who that I is. And then we need to see what that I sees in us so that they become, I changed the acronym to I see in me. I see in me what they see in me, to prove that I have the skill, I have the timing, I have the talent, I have whatever the knowledge, I have whatever it takes to be where I am. And that translates into calm and confidence. Those I see in you and you moments. I see in me moments. Who called me here? Coaching's a calling, leadership's a calling. We've been called in, we've been called up, we've been called out of our comfort zone to do this because it's the right time and the right moment and we are capable. That's number one. Number two, and let me change pages, I don't want to mess up his steps. As he's waiting there with the hymns and the songs going on, he reminds himself that he screwed it up before. And guess what? The sun came up. He has screwed it up before. He has screwed up the timing. He has screwed up his cadence. He had screwed up his information. He has screwed things up. And even though the congregation has an outline that says what he's going to talk about, all the verses and the little things you can fill in, even though they have that, even if he screws it up, they probably won't really even notice or care. But he knows. He knows. How he manages that makes a difference. In the first tip that he gave, the first thing, he was using power tool number one, choosing one thought over the other. This is who called me. I can do this because. This is our responsibility, power tool number two. He is responding to a mistake by saying, okay, I need to think about what's coming next. Because guess what? I've done this before and it ended up being okay. Again, perspective. So as he's standing there and he's waiting for these songs to get done, anxiously, waiting for his turn, basically, he is reminding himself that, hey, if this doesn't go perfectly right, it's okay, because I've screwed up before and they still ask me back. I've screwed up before and I'm going to get another chance. And when I get that chance, I might screw up again because the world is full of uncertainty. Sport is full of uncertainty. Leadership is full of uncertainty. In fact, LeBron James has missed almost 14,000 shots. And when you watch him play and he misses a shot, you don't think he should never shoot for the rest of the game. He is horrible. He doesn't have the skill. He doesn't have the talent. He doesn't have the know-how. He should never shoot again. No, well, if you don't like LeBron James, maybe you think that, but here in Akron, we love LeBron James. We think, hey, it's part of the game. Mistakes happen. Every shot is not going to go in. What a difference in perspective. It's not about making a mistake. It's not about if, it's when. And then how we respond to that mistake and how we respond to the review of that mistake makes a difference on how we approach our next opportunity. And you can go to my website, ssbperformance.com /downloads and download the 4-step performance cycle, which talks about the approach, the action, the result, and the response. That response leads directly to our next approach, which sets up our next action, which sets up our result, which we don't control, but we control how we respond to it. That's number 2. He reminds himself that he screwed it up before and it's going to be okay. Number 3, he talked about in his Christmas Eve sermon, which I'll put a link in the notes on ssbperformance.com /blog. He was talking about little Marky on this shoulder and little Marky on this shoulder. And of course, I've known Mark my whole life. He's older than me, but I know who little Marky was, right? But this little Marky is the BS Marky, the one who's talking crap. And this little Marky is the is the factual Marky. So crap talking, fact talking. He likened it to which one will you feed? I'm sorry, about the wolves, right? The wolves in the old Cherokee parable where the grandfather says, in us are two competing wolves. One is kindness and patience and love or something similar to that. And the other is greed and anger and frustration and all those other things. And he was talking to his grandson, and the grandson says, grandfather, which wolf wins? It's the one that we feed. It's the same with us on the inside. We have the BS radio station that's going on in our head where we've got little Julie over here talking crap and little Julie over here talking fact, but that this station has a tendency to drown out the calm and the confident. So we've got to know how to change the frequency. And it's a choice. It's always going to be there, but it doesn't have to control us. Which one are we going to feed? Who are we going to listen to? Or are we going to start talking to ourselves and remind ourselves that we have the skill and the tools and we've been called to do this. And even if we screw it up, it's okay because we've done it before and everything's been okay in the end. Yes, we could lose the game, but we're going to get another chance sometime, we hope, or we're going to get another chance to do something with that lesson that we learned. Is it the crap talker or the fact talker that we're going to listen to? Who are we going to feed? That's the question. And then number 4, the final thing that Mark talked about was the fact that he agrees with Russell Wilson that the separation is in the preparation. He knows that he has followed his weekly process. His outline is done by Wednesday and he fills everything else in. And then on his 2-hour drive from Columbus to Wadsworth, he has his sermon nailed down. He knows the steps. He knows his points. He's got a book with tabs and all kinds of different things. His Bible's all marked up. I've seen it all. And he is ready. He has the knowledge. He has the skill that it takes. And he knows that even though he is prepared, doesn't mean it's going to go perfectly, but is going to give him the best opportunity to give the best message to reach the most people. And he is going to feel more confident and ready because he has put in the work. The separation is in the preparation because he has set himself up for success. He has gone through every step, just like our first astronauts that went to the moon. They thought of everything that could go right and everything that could go wrong, and they made a plan for every single one of them. And then they turned those what ifs, which is catastrophizing, into imagine ifs, which is solution and hopeful thinking. They knew that things were going to go wrong at some point, but they imagined what they could do to find a solution to it. And they took the catastrophizing out and turned in the planning thinking. What ifs to imagine ifs. We're talking about scared or hope. In those two differences of approach, we have turned our what ifs into imagine ifs, which is preparedness. And preparedness overcomes a lot. Those are his 4 things. And I thought they were really good. His final thing that he talked about was this, is by the time he takes that step after the songs are over and he gets up and he says, good morning, church, or whatever it is exactly that he says, it's go time. The angst is gone. The preparation kicks in. All that tension is relieved because he knows that if he looks too far ahead, it causes constant tension. It's that step that he takes. He's putting things into motion. As soon as he decides to act, it's his time to go, he moves into that feeling of ready. But if he stood there and waited to feel it until he took that step when felt like he was ready to go preach, they'd probably have to play 2 or 3 more songs, which I wouldn't mind. I do enjoy the singing part, although not because I don't like listening to Mark, but the bottom line is that action, it's easier to act into a feeling than it is to feel into an action. So all of those things put together take that imposter syndrome that even the most polished and those that have so much experience, even those people feel it. Mark's got a good plan. We all need a plan for our imposter syndrome, for our doubt, for that negative self-talk, all those inner games that we play on a daily basis. He's got a good plan. Now's a great time for you to set yours. And if I can help you set yours or yours for your team, reach out. I'd love to start the new year off with you. ssbperformance.com is my website. JulieJ at ssbperformance.com. Reach out to me anytime, and let's kick 2024 off feeling prepared, understanding what our calling is, understanding that we've screwed it up before and it's been okay, and that we get to feed Craft Talker or Fact Talker. If we're prepared, we're going to be in a much better situation. So, have a great holiday week. I look forward to seeing you in 2024. Thanks for following, and I'll see you next week.